2023 at 4:10 p.m. Eastern time. I have a cup of ice and water, and it's like making a lot of weird noises. It's never done this before. I don't know why it's doing that. But guys, Mr. Zagami's been on here several times before. Your books, Confessions of an Illuminati, are absolutely brilliant. I've always said my favorite one is number 7, but it's been but they got number 8 out now. We haven't talked in a while, but Mr. Zagami, could you please maybe catch everyone up to date and tell us on, and that's why I love having you on, is you look at the super zoomed out picture. You look at where are we going as a whole, spiritually, technologically, demons, angels, AI, warfare, the war for free will. It really is the most zoomed out, comprehensive picture of really anyone I talk to, which is why I love having you on. I also love your accent. I know you don't like it. You say it's Chef Boyardee. I love your accent. You got a badass accent. But guys, go in the description and please go support Mr. Zagami. Please go buy his books. They're absolutely incredible. But with that, Leo, how are you doing, sir?
Great. And actually, yeah, Volume 7, it's a great book, and I'm actually doing a follow-up to Volume 7 in a way, but it's a book that could be read, will be able to be in the future when it comes out, also by people who maybe have not read the previous volumes. However, it's something that is coming up this summer. I will notify you when it's ready. It's Volume 9 of my Confessions. I can give you, if you want, the title at the moment, at least temporarily. I think that's the title that's going to stay for this book. Is Confessions of an Illuminati, Volume 9, 7 Steps into the Secrets of the New World Disorder, from transhumanism and immortality to Gnostic Jesus, UFOs, and insect witchcraft. So it's kind of it's a lot of interesting stuff. For the first time, we will be also discussing Jesus, but the Gnostic prospect of Jesus that is often embraced by Freemasons, by the Illuminati, the various mystery schools that we call Illuminati. As you know, I kind of tend to give this name to a wide range of mystery schools, not only Adam Weishaupt, but also starting from Adam Weishaupt. So it's going to be very interesting book to bring out, because there is going to be some new elements, of course, of my research and my work. In the meantime, I'm of course continuing with my work on the internet, divulging amongst the censorship what I can, especially because I'm still on YouTube. I never really picked up that many viewers on Rumble, so I am present on Rumble, but I don't really have as many viewers as you have. And hopefully we will be able today to just clarify some points on what is going on. And I leave it to you, of course, for the questions. But I would say that, of course, people now are very much taken by the whole alien thing. And as you know, in Volume 7 of my Confessions, I made it very clear that the actual origins of the AI were to be researched in the alien. I mean, the topic that we call UFO now, WAP, aliens, and all that. It's actually what gave birth to the AI, and that is a concept which I launched, as you know, in Volume 7. This proposing the AI as something alien, something that is not the fruit of this planet only, because of reverse engineering. And now that we have these confirmations regarding reverse engineering, of course, it's all confirming what I wrote already in Volume 7. And so that it's a very interesting thing that at the moment needs, I think, some discussion, because, of course, it's the topic of the day for many people. It's unbelievable that we have this kind of situation, and that the government is hiding things at this level, and that they have managed to hide it for so long. But in reality, they have managed to hide a lot of things for a long time. So, I mean, I don't know why people should be surprised. I mean, we are still here in 2023, not knowing who killed John Fitzgerald Kennedy. So, I mean, it's not like the government has not been able to keep secrets from us. So as you understand, the whole topic of cyber Satan assumes also a very important relevance in regards to the end times. And that's why I thought that I needed to bring out some more work regarding this topic in the coming months. Then also regarding, of course, what is happening with the Bohemian Grove has been interesting. In the last week or so, we have seen workers from the Bohemian Grove suing the Bohemian Grove. Once again, they are complaining about being treated like slaves because they are there for 16-hour non-stop shifts at the Bohemian Grove when these billionaires don't even pay them the minimum wage of $15.50. Here in California, we have this minimum wage since 2008, but the Bohemian Club, which is, as you know, filled with people like the husband of Nancy Pelosi, don't seem to really care. So hypocrisy is all over the place. But the Bohemian Club had already some problems of that kind in the past, as you know. In 2008, the workers of the actual club were going on strike. This time, instead, is a lawsuit from the workers of the Grove, which is interesting because, as we know, the Bohemian Club is not so discussed these days. It's not on top of the list of the conspiracy world because nowadays people seem to have an understanding which is still very compartmentalized of the New World Order. And as you said, they don't have really the full picture. While instead, I still think that it's important to discuss the Bohemian Club and their activities at the Bohemian Grove because they are part of this whole network of secret societies that, of course, has as their ultimate overlords the Jesuits. And the Jesuits, as you know, are very important in Hollywood. I discussed all this in Volume 8, together with the Sabbatean Frankists. But recently we have seen how they have made a film about Father Amort, this exorcist that, of course, was a real-time exorcist, but in the fiction world of with Russell Crowe, it became this Hollywood movie, of course, sensation. It's really about sensational. I mean, I tried to see if I could work with the people in Hollywood, tell you the truth. They contacted me, actually, the authors of that film recently. And we kind of like, held long discussions. I think we talked for, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours in total, just to see if, we could get to, to some kind of arrangement. But it seems like at the moment, Hollywood it's a little bit like Oliver Stone has said recently. Oliver was in Romania. He was, I think, receiving an award. And he said, I don't see any difference from seeing a movie and seeing a video game because it seems like it's all about action, 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 action. There is not really, and computer graphics, like I explained in Volume 8, there is not really any plot anymore. It's just about being bombarded by sounds, by colors, and passively going through something that leaves you not really enriched culturally. It needs to leave you even more demented than when you went into the cinema, into the theater. So this post-pandemic era, which of course sees us again going into the cinemas, into the places where we, for a couple of years we couldn't really go, especially people like us who didn't want to have that green card and all that BS. But I think that the problem is that people still need to mature and understand that we are at a turning point in history where we are getting bombarded with all this rubbish, but we are not really understanding that what's coming next is going to affect not only us, but generations to come. It's like the political world is of course fueled with Trump and with what is happening to him, and of course it's very sad to see that they're doing everything possible and imaginable to destroy the only candidate that in some way could probably bring back some sense of normality in the White House, because I don't think we have that sense of normality anymore with Joe Biden, who goes around saying "God save the Queen." We are kind
Yeah.
of left a little bit puzzled, and always so we are also witnessing the lack of freedom of speech, the increase in censorship, not so visible over here yet, but already very visible abroad. And new laws are coming in Europe in August, which will increase very much the censorship. So that is also another important topic that unfortunately, at times we need to discuss the fact that we are not able to really reach a wider audience, but we try. So we attempt, and in my work, I'm trying to with the YouTube now, not really focusing on the political side, but I'm focusing on the occult roots of the Illuminati in a long series which I have inaugurated this year, which is still ongoing. And it's unfolding a bit their secrets one by one in a more kind of like academic fashion, and just leave it to the people then to judge. But I see a lot of problems still in telling the truth, because the people are either not ready, or either they seem to simply ignore that it's not about putting like on a social network, but it's about really getting involved. So I hope that there is more activism, though it seems like people still don't they don't understand that we are really in front of an unprecedented moment in history, because if they are, an acting president who is in the White House is going after a former president in this way, we are really abandoning any sense of decency here in the United States.
Yeah.
So I hope that this gives you an idea of what is happening in the future. Like I said, there's always, we have said that the AI is at the center of this transformation, as well as transhumanism. Now it depends. We need to see who is going to arrive at the White House in 2024, and if they will be capable to actually put a lid on it in some way, and if they're able to control this thing before it goes out of hand. I mean, the moment in which the quantum computers start interacting and enter into the AI world actively, that is going to be very problematic for human beings, because the quantum computers seem to be really then at that point having a brain of their own in the way they can work things out.
Seems to be the point of no return.
Yeah, and at the same time we have, we discussed just earlier the fact that everybody's talking about this whistleblower, the revelations about alien spaceships and all that. But then we have also other revelations from the scientific world that are equally important. The fact that the Big Bang is being put into question, the actual fundaments of the Big Bang theory. And
It is?
yes, absolutely. The whole concept of the Big Bang theory seems to be put in question, because from the new telescopes they have and the new technology they have, they're seeing that it doesn't reflect on the expansion of the universe, so that inevitably that Big Bang will generate, and it doesn't seem like we are there in the way that things are reflected in the cosmos. So there is some discussion on maybe rediscussing even the concept of time as we know it, which is
where I haven't seen. I guess I've just been too busy. So that is significant in that it seems to be the very.
Yeah, I think one of the people who we can always rely on for some scientific data is Michio Kaku, which seems to be always, I mean, kind of the American physicist, futurologist that seems to be always on the board with this kind of thing. So I would always suggest to go and view his videos because they seem to be quite down to the point when it comes down to both warning us about the danger of quantum computers and at the same time this new revolutionary concept that the Big Bang theory in reality might not be so accurate, and then we need to rediscuss the whole concept of time and space.
It seems to be if you can redefine the very fundamentals of the universe, then you can then insert whatever definitions you want from the ground up.
I mean, I understand also, I mean, when it comes down to understanding the universe, of course, now that we have these quantum computers, now that we have this AI, we will have also the possibility to finally have a wider understanding. And that's the problem here. We have the Illuminati of today who want to rebuild an hypothetical golden age, just like in Atlantis. But the problem is that they are doing the same errors that brought the end to Atlantis. Now, without going into the history of Atlantis, but we can say that there's been, of course, some divine punishment in the past that is kind of like divine punishment. It's divine retribution, if you want to be more appropriate. I mean, it's present in Noah's Ark stories, present in the Epic of Gilgamesh, is present in many cultures, but it's basically telling us that if we screw up, God is going to punish us.
Yeah.
And so the aim of these golden builders, these Rosicrucians, Illuminati, Freemasons, that for hundreds of years have picked up on the teachings of the Renaissance that, of course, in turn were bringing us back to ancient Egypt, to the Alexandrian school and all the rest. It seems like though they are not capable, people like Klaus Schwab, like his philosopher that, of course, it's like not really the kind of philosopher that you have in mind when you talk about the philosophy, because you vary and what is happening with everything that has to do with transhumanism and the way he's proposing this new technology in a very aggressive way, wanting to monitor every aspect of our life 24 hours a day. It's not really a golden age. I don't think we are approaching a golden age. I mean, they seem to think that the AI will bring us to a golden age. But that's not really the case. And so we need to rediscuss that. And we need to, but they are the people in power. So how are we going to front that kind of, no?
So do you think, so on one hand, that almost makes it more dangerous then, because it's not that
Yuval Harari, it's one person, of course,
Yeah.
but here we have, when you start studying all the papers from the various universities today, you understand that the academic milieu is made up of people like this, who have a blind certainty in science, and they think that it will bring us all the solutions that we need. They don't really seem to focus so much on the problems they might generate. And when they think about the problems they might generate, they say it's a necessary evil for a technology that is going to make our life so much better. That is a big problem. And of course, this is not going to be the golden age when you have the AI, the cyber Satan controlling every aspect of our life, deciding where we can go, where we can't go, because our car today, it's a car that we can just put on and go wherever we want. But tomorrow is going to be a car that is going to be controlled by the AI. It's going to tell you that maybe today there is a problem in the air pollution, or there is a problem in traffic or something, and we just have to stay home. Or maybe there is too much pollution in the air and we need to just stay home to help the world get better. This is the kind of BS that they're pushing, the lockdowns of the future built around also the concept that everything has to be within 15 minutes. And if you don't, they're already doing this in certain countries, like in England, they're starting to experiment this kind of thing. So I think that that's very sad, but that's where we're heading to.
Do you think that what you said about whoever gets into office or who gets into the White House in 2024, can they put the lid back on AI? Do you think that that's possible, or do you think that, because it seems like even if let's just say the United States puts the kibosh on AI development and research, China's not going to stop, India's not going to stop, so it seems like
it seems to me that we are still capable of stopping the development of this AI grid around us, which makes us more depending on it. So, that's why the more we go towards the so-called green technology, the more we are actually going towards depending from the AI. The more we are choosing, to maybe put a smart thermometer in a house rather than a normal one, and then connecting it to our air conditioning, or the fact that we have a smart house, a smart this or smart that. I always said in my books, as you know, that equals Satan, not smart. And it's actually not very smart to embrace this technology. But this idea of a golden age that follows us since the time of Plato, and since the Critias, and since the description of Atlantis, and then his idea of a republic. But it was an idea that was very far from our idea, because let's say the communist view that Plato had was not really a communist view, because you still leave the ruling classes where they are and they will still be ruling you. It was simply the fact that you could get the ruling classes to maybe realize and reason better. That's maybe the concept that Plato wanted to implement. And then when you see all these people, the Illuminati, they embrace these ideas. They embrace these ideas from ancient Greece, from ancient Rome, from ancient Egypt. But then when they actually put them into practice, they put them to practice with a completely different set of mind. Because in Plato's idea, there was a disinterested ruler, a disinterested king, a disinterested person that was in charge, that was doing everything for the people, and that actually was was taking on responsibility, but was doing it respectfully of all these rules that of course then had to be discussed, and it was never like just people going to Washington and doing their own business for their own family and for their own friends, meaning people like Joe Biden, who have stolen, for example, millions of dollars, been involved with a lot of crookery. And that is not really for the interest of the people, it's for their own interest. So you see, there is not that self-interest that in the ancient times these philosophers had. So at times they seem to refer to this ancient times, but they don't really then want to reflect that disinterested self, that way of wanting to really work for the good of the people. That is not really in the interest of 99% of the people who goes to Davos. Seems to be just people who want their own good. And it seems like that is the concept of Volodymyr Zelensky, who is in charge of a country that, of course, has already suffered a lot and could stop at any time this war, but because of his own personal interest, because he wants to continue, receiving money, weapons from the West, growing his own personal power, he knows that the moment this war ends, his own pathetic little theater, because he is an actor after all, will come crumbling down. So I think that is pretty clear that we are not living in a world where there is people who are putting their ideals in front. They just have their own personal interest. And that was really what, when, for example, Plato was discussing his own concept of the Republic, or the ancient philosophers, they were doing it to, they were trying to get the ruling classes to become more disinterested, more interested about the public good, but it doesn't mean communism. Communism is a very different thing. Marxism is a very different thing. And it's a dangerous ideology that unfortunately seems to have taken over the intellectual establishment. And so these days, when you go to a university, and 90% of the universities, unfortunately, are promoting this ideology. And they do it, in their paper, in their various journals, and they're pushing it, They're pushing Marxism, they're pushing socialism to these millennials who don't know any better and embrace it. That's very sad.
Do you think that we are approaching an inflection point as the government starts to openly acknowledge UFOs more, and in the idea that UFOs or aliens are demonic or satanic and no different than AI? Are we kind of approaching an inflection point in humanity?
Well, I mean, I think that if the AI comes through, of course, in the next few years, the topic also of the aliens, it's going to become part of the discussion, because the AI also will multiply. You want an answer to the Fermi paradox, the AI will give it to you, but is that a genuine and disinterested answer? You have to understand that if this reverse engineering thing is real, every technology that we have here, as we are using it now, me and you, and everything that we have, our computers, our phones, everything, is potentially an alien object. So the problem at this point is that we have already a Trojan horse that is controlling our life, and we let it happen. So the aliens didn't need to land with the big spaceships around us, and that is really an interesting topic also of the academic world. In the early month of June, before all these revelations started, there was actually some very important revelations in the academic world made by some people who started to publish papers saying the aliens will come through the AI.
Yeah, it's the idea that they're going to come from spaceships, I think, is
No, they will come through the AI, and that is a completely different idea. And one of the, I think we said before, of course, the work of Mikio Kaku is a great joy. It's a great it's interesting, it's engaging, but also the work of Martin Rees is very engaging. Martin Rees is a member of the House of Lords in the United Kingdom, but he's also the 15th astronomer royal, appointed in 1995. I talked about in volume 1 of my Confessions, and his recent papers have been very interesting on how the aliens might actually influence us through the AI. It's a very different kind of approach, and it goes basically in line with what I've been saying in volume 7. So that's I was happy about that. Instead, when it comes down to this whistleblower suddenly talking and coming out with these revelations, well, it's of course it's also psyop. It's a big psychological operation. Are you genuine? I doubt it, because you have the permission of the Pentagon to say these things, even if the Pentagon after says it's not true that we have a reverse engineering program, but you are actually putting and insinuating these ideas in the minds of millions. So there is a reason for doing that. And the reason is that when you go around, most people accept already the alien hypothesis. So now the next step is how to sell it for them, no?
Yeah.
How to sell it, and if possible, also how to sell it for our own disadvantage, meaning for their own strategy of tension. That's why there has always been a lot of talk, with this Project Bluebeam nonsense. But when it comes down to Project Bluebeam, it's the creation of one single person, and I never found any other evidence. And so I'm always like, this Serge Monast created this whole Project Bluebeam thing. There is still a lot of talk of it. There's still a lot of, the artificial second coming. But I don't base my work on hypotheses laid down on the internet by a journalist.
Yeah.
Because I have my own work conducted through the years, as you know, with my own background in the secret societies and stuff. And I don't expect anybody to believe me. But if I was somebody who had put through, let's say, Project Bluebeam, I make an example here, no? But then nobody else is discussing it. There is no any other evidence from any other person. How can we believe in something like this? It's been a conspiracy around since the first part of the 90s. I mean, so it's not like a recent conspiracy. The guy, Serge Monast, this Canadian guy, died in 96. So, I mean, it's been long gone. But maybe the system embraced this theory because, in a way, when you are saying, you are selling the fact that the second coming is artificial and is BS, who is going to take advantage of that?
Yeah.
The system. So for me, it's very important. Also, in my new book, in Volume 9, that I am completing, it was very important to clarify this. And of course, not only this, there's many other things I discussed, but this was an important thing because I think that every time, like recently, I stopped working with InfoWars. Alex Jones is not having me on anymore because he doesn't want to discuss the Vatican. He doesn't want to discuss the Jesuits. After the Sandy Hook trial, the big 1 billion fee that is supposed to pay, and in theory, because then in practice we have to see, he is bankrupt. But apparently, then suddenly, Steve Bannon appears in the picture. Steve Bannon is connected to Opus Dei. I'm not really somebody who gets along with the Opus Dei because they are a sect within the Catholic Church. And suddenly he doesn't want to have me on board anymore. But the last possibility he gave me was to go on InfoWars and discuss Project Bluebeam. And I told him I didn't tell him screw himself, but I just said, sorry, I'm not somebody who has risked his life for many years. Also working for InfoWars in Italy, I was risking my life for exposing the Vatican, and I exposed some serious stuff, some concrete, like scoops made out of real journalism. And then become somebody who embraces Project Bluebeam, a conspiracy theory which I don't even believe is true. It was a little bit disappointing.
Yeah. No, that's gotta be disappointing.
It's disappointing for a lot of people, it's disappointing for a lot of people that want to believe in Alex Jones as the tip of the spear. But the moment in which you don't discuss the Vatican any longer or the Jesuits, you are no longer the tip of the spear.
Well, I think it's the moment when any one topic becomes untouchable. It seems that you're no longer being sincere and you're no longer open to all options, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean one thing or the other is the answer. But how could I call myself an unbiased show if I said we can talk about anything aside from the Vatican? Well, it'd be like, well, you're now putting lines around what is and what isn't true, and that is by default not having an open mind to be open to all theories and all explanations, right? That's not how critical thinking works. You have to take in all possible routes and explanations, and then whittle them down. But that's that's gotta be frustrating from your point of view.
Well, frustrating. I simply, disappointed because I
Disappointing, yeah.
gave, 7 years of my life until last year. Basically, my involvement with Infowars was also a professional one. I had my books on their store
Sure.
and other things. So, I mean, it's also a professional thing, but at the same time, it's disappointing because you have an idea and an ideal that you want to, in some way, you want to fight this system. And I thought that Alex was genuine, but then now I understand he's not. Now he's just up to save his own business, and that's not really how I operate. I have lost a lot because of my ideas, because of pursuing this fight against these people, which I deem as criminals, as Satanists, as evildoers. I will never give up on my fight, even if I had to leave. I had to leave Italy. I had to leave everything I owned and a lot of other things. So, in the end, I know that at least when I go to bed in the evening, I go to bed, but my conscience is clear. I have done everything possible and imaginable, even renouncing to see my own son, which I didn't see since 2000 and early 2008. So, I mean, this demonstrates that I'm pretty sincere in my work, because back then, they offered me, you can either, see your son again, or you can continue to expose us. That was basically what they made me understand in what they were pretty clear, pretty direct about it. So I made a choice. So for me, like I said, I've been working way too much in exposing the real evildoers of the New World Order with all my books, from volume 8, volume 7, volume 6.66, volume 5, 4, 3, Invisible Master, the book I did on Pope Francis, all books that have revealed new things, have brought new things to the table, and that's why they've been successful. That's why I'm looking forward to bring more things to the table in my next book. And at the same time, I'm not somebody who is going to start talking about things he doesn't even believe in.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said also when I was recently at Contact in the Desert, which is a UFO conference. I have a lot of friends there, a lot of people. I myself had, I have published Invisible Master, which is regarded by people like Brad Olsen, my publisher, for that book, like as a revolutionary book, a book that really has suddenly put UFO under a new perspective, which was its connection with the occult. But I'm not a ufologist. I will lie if I say I'm a ufologist, because I'm not. So I always say, yes, I am an investigative journalist who has exposed his past life also, and with the help of my past experiences, I was able to write these books. But I'm not gonna start fantasizing on things that I didn't have any direct experience with.
Yeah.
The direct experience with the alien, with the UFOs, I had, but it doesn't mean that I'm gonna be left the rest of my life talking about that, because the work I'm doing is a much wider kind of work. I want to bring my readers to the final realization of what they have around them, and then they can make their own mind up. Because when you read the volume 8 and you read about, for example, show business and everything that goes on within show business, and how it's manipulated, and how we are basically being attacked from all corners, from the sounds that we listen to, the images that are projected to us on TV, in the cinema, and all the rest, and all the history that goes back from the very early days of Hollywood until now, you understand the level of manipulation, and that gives you something a realization. The same with Volume 7, where I make people understand that there is an occult background to the Great Reset. It is not simply that Klaus Schwab wakes up one day and he creates Davos and suddenly everybody arrives in Davos.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen like that.
No.
And so I had to explain, you know, all the various connections from the Golden Fleece to the Jesuits, the Pact of the Catacombs, the various Masonic or Illuminati orders, and all this, of course, in a book, like you said, you like it very much, Volume 7, which definitely has given a different prospect about the Great Reset. When it comes to Volume 6, I did for the first time, and I'm still, you know, very happy of that book because I finally presented this concept of Cyber Satan. And people were not really in early 2019 when it came out, and I worked on it, of course, in 2018. They were not really that conscious about the dangers of the AI. They were still kind of, you know, the pandemic was not yet, didn't happen yet. Everything was still far from happening. So people had a different view of things. And instead, I denounced this connection between modern technology, artificial intelligence, the Vatican, the Satanists, the history of Satanism, and how, you know, we are now really fronting this incredible enemy that is still the old enemy. Satan is always the same old enemy, but in a new 2.0 kind of modality. Yeah. So I'm very happy with also that book because it brought that out. And when it comes to Volume 5, I'm happy because I brought a kind of like draw a perspective of the whole Western initiatic system. As you know, we discussed these books one by one in your show. So that's why I'm kind of making a resume now. But as you know, we have discussed them with you. And then, and that was also a very interesting book. I then decided, proposed to my wife to then publish another edition. And we added those elements that are starting to prove completely accurate about Wuhan and all the rest. So, I mean, it's still accurate to this day. And then we have, of course, Volume 4, in which I explained how the Sabbatean Frankists comes into the equation, who they are, how they link to the various secret societies, the Gnostic concept of the archons, how also in the last 5 centuries, we basically had this growing Satanism that is really coming out also of the grimoires, of the ancient grimoires that were used. And if we want to understand better the concept of the archons, we can say that basically the Gnostics see everything as evil, which I don't share the same opinion, because I don't think that everything is inherently evil. But they have this, you know, so for them, the 7 planets are the 7 archons, are the 7 dominators for the, you know, for the evil God that has created us in this matter that is. Well, I mean, the problem here is that the Gnostics are the Illuminati of today, in a way, in some of the things they did and what are their beliefs that they have carried on. When you go and study them, I mean, they came just at the time of Jesus, and that's when they started to spread. I mean, they were present even before Jesus, but they inserted the element of Christianity at times to make themselves more appetizing. But at the same time, they were also indulging with grimoires, magic, evocations, and doing things that simply were not really something that you should be doing. So I think that the last 2,000 years we have had behind the scenes a different kind of Christianity, which I want to present in this new book I'm writing. And that's going to be very shocking for a lot of people to see the level of manipulation I mean, from the time of Jesus, because yes, Gnosticism becomes really popular in the 2nd century after Christ, but it's present with Jesus. So when you have Simon Magus who goes after St. Peter, there is this confrontation in Rome. There is the sin of simony, which is selling spiritual titles. Well, it's born out of Simon Magus, who wanted to buy his own influence within the disciples, and he never managed. He never really managed to get there. But he gave birth, of course, to one of the most important Gnostic currents. And you have also Apollonius Tatiana. You have these figures that need to be understood. And as well as understand the fight that the first church fathers did against these dangerous heresies. And I say dangerous because at times today, like I'm going to show in my new book, you have a real conspiracy that starts from the 1980s to rehash and relaunch this whole Gnostic myth. And so that is very important, I think, that people realize that the first Christians had to fight also with a dangerous heresy, because these people are the same people who are now proposing us the lies of transhumanism and the promise of a golden age. Because then, of course, Gnosticism, it didn't die. It stayed behind the scenes and then gradually re-emerged in Freemasonry, in Rosicrucianism, and many other currents. Just to name, I mean, Crowley became even a bishop, a head of his Ecclesia Gnostica Cattolica, but then he made as one of his saints Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Illuminati, just to tell you, I mean, how confirming that the link with this dangerous heresies. So that for people say, but who cares about these heresies? People today, in their pragmatism, in their materialism, they probably don't care about these things. But then you have to make them realize why they are so important, why they actually interfere with your own life today. So my work, as you know, is to decontextualize and to then recontextualize in a different context in which you are understanding really that all these things have affected us in one way or another. And that's why I think that people will particularly appreciate all my books that I did, because they're all very much directed to make the people reawake their instincts of their curiosity, but then give them also the tools to free themselves from this prison made of lies that of course sees also the participation of the academic world. But that's sad, but it's true. No? These days I have people every now and then says, why don't you go and teach in this university or this other university? I say, man,
yeah.
I mean, as soon as you go on a campus, you're probably going to have Antifa or whatever, and they're going to come and beat you up or do all kinds of things. I had some people when I first arrived here in America that wanted me to go to have a speech in Berkeley. And I had to tell them, are you sure? And then after a week, they said, no. No, it's not possible. So, I mean, I was like, I knew it. I mean, it's just, they shouldn't have even tried, because I know that I'm not welcome in this kind of situation, in that kind of context, which is very sad, because, this means that today you are not really able to spread culture, but simply propaganda, which is a different thing, a version of truth, not the truth.
Interesting.
This is very sad, but this is the reality of things.
A version of truth. In the last couple minutes, if we could touch on, so one thing you do touch about on your books, and I've always appreciated, is you have a more nuanced view of Trump, in that you aren't glossed over by, you look at a lot of the things he's done and you're like, that's not entirely what a good guy would do. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are going into 2024 RFK
I mean,
Jr.
politics, like we said earlier, when I discussed Plato and I discussed his own view, but like I said, it's the politicians of today. They don't do it for their own,
Yeah.
usually for their own idea, for their own ideals, for their own obsession with giving maybe a better life to everybody, which is a nice concept, and it should be really the concept of a true leader to help. I'm here to help. I'm here to serve rather than to order you around. Now, I think that that amongst all the politicians that we have, Trump is somebody who has sacrificed his own business in order to embrace politics, not the other way around. His business hasn't really taken advantage of his political career. It has actually, most of the times, he has lost, because Trump before was a TV personality that didn't have really a political categorization. It wasn't really the enemy of anybody. It was simply a TV personality, the apprentice, So people will welcome him from the left, from the right, from any, and they will not criticize. And then he went into the political arena and they started to, of course, criticize him. And I noticed a fundamental difference with Silvio Berlusconi, who just died a few days ago. Silvio Berlusconi was a media tycoon, but before that he was also like Trump, a constructor. He was somebody who constructed a whole part of Milan called Milano 2, so he was very much into the same business as Trump. Then Trump didn't go into the media business in the same way. Berlusconi had a more active, direct involvement in constructing the media, while instead Trump became participant to a show, and of course he liked his presence on the media. That was, but at one point I was politically involved with Berlusconi around 10 years ago, because I participated with his political party to the election. So I saw things from within. And I was very disappointed because I wanted to help him out politically after I saw the Bilderberg Club kicking his ass, literally kicking him out of politics almost in 2011, when they, thanks to all these scandals, they were, he was a guy who he liked the ladies, he liked to have fun, maybe too much. Maybe at times it was just, in its minors that becomes really, even if it's 17, it starts to become a little bit. So, but Berlusconi was blackmailable. And most of these people are blackmailable, all of them who arrive to certain position of power. So then after they simply comply. And in 2011, Berlusconi had to comply because his own business was threatened with 500 million fine, to which he might even receive further fines. So at that point, he will have lost all his money, because let's say that Trump has around 3 to 5 billion. Berlusconi had 6 billion, and his family had 6 billion. So a bigger, and he was about to lose everything to politics. So at that point, he had to make a choice. And from that moment onwards, he never discussed again communism. He was a guy who was bashing communists every day for years, bashing them, criticizing. Suddenly, he didn't do that any longer. Suddenly, he stopped. Suddenly, he started to conform. And then, of course, the fines, disappear, the persecution of the judiciary kind of slows down. And every time he might do something that they didn't like, they will immediately threaten them with another lawsuit case of some kind. So I'm seeing the same thing done with Trump, no? But Trump seems to want to continue to fight.
Yeah.
Something that Berlusconi didn't do. So he might have a lot of faults, personally, as a man, and all that, but he is somebody who is really fighting and is risking a lot. And if he continues to fight, well, the more he continues to fight, the more I have respect to him, respect for him, because Berlusconi didn't fight, and in the end, he sold out, and it was really sad to see, and it was pathetic. His own political party, in the end, lost more and more. And then, of course, the Fratelli d'Italia, which was like born out of his own political milieu, rose because they became, the ones who wanted to be more populist. But even them, in the end, they are all part of the establishment. And even Meloni knows very well that if she doesn't comply with everything that is said about Ukraine, this, that, and all the other, she will not last. So I'm still hopeful about Trump for 2024, if that's the question. Like I said in volume 7, I don't mind DeSantis for what he has done in Florida, but if he wants to challenge Trump, then he's insane, because that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And my ideal solution was just pass him on the vice presidency, because it's always good to keep your enemy close. Though, I mean, at least he's your enemy. With Mike Pence, he was like, behaving like a poodle, but in the end, he is a scorpion, because he's a guy who's now really betraying Trump and with what he says, and I don't like his demeanor. I don't like really his political. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I don't think anybody believes that Mike Pence can go anywhere. I don't think that anybody thinks that Chris Christie is going to go anywhere, or all the other candidates. But my last message is, let's pray for America, because unfortunately 2024 might be the last elections, and after that we either have civil unrest, civil war, the breakup of the country, or either we have absolute compliance and we have basically the Communist States of America.
Yeah.
So under China. So that is this. These are the two options here. It's not like, or hopefully, maybe, I don't know, maybe Trump the second time will be a little bit more diplomatic and will be able also to bring back more people that thought about him as being not suitable, because then, I mean, I think that everybody now prefers Trump tweets that millions of illegals arriving, or the threat of nuclear war, or God save the Queen by an imbecile who is in the White House. So thank you so much for having me today here. I invite all the people to go to my website, leozagami.com, to read my latest articles, purchase my books, my latest one, of course, volume 8, but also volume 7 and all the others. I didn't talk about the trilogy, but of course, volume 1 we discussed is at the basis just of, my idea of how the Illuminati are, and not my idea, I mean, the way that this concept of the Illuminati is really unveiled for the first time with honesty, I think, in volume 1. The volume 2, it was a very controversial book. A lot of people don't know that, but it was a book that is still nowadays censored in some prisons, like in Arizona. And it's actually a book that had some lawsuit threats by Satanists, or the Brotherhood of Satan, who said they were not part of me. Crazy stuff. But it's a book that is worth reading, where I said that in 2020 there will be actually a virus that will lock you inside your home. So, I mean, it was something that it's laid there for everybody to see and read, written and published then in 2015. And then you have, written before, but published. And then we have volume 3, which is dedicated instead to the murky world of the Templars, the Vatican, espionage war, the Satanists around it. and the disappearance of Emanuele Orlandi, which has only recently become popular thanks to Netflix. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that was something that I brought out a long time ago, also with my interviews to his brother, to his brother, and so I hope that now with this bigger exposure, we will come down to some conclusion about that case in the end. So thank you very much for having me on, and God bless you all, guys.
Thank you, Leo. Guys, please go in the description. Please go support Mr. Zagami. Please go buy his books. And Leo, as always, my show is your show whenever you want. I'd love to have you on again. And I look forward to talking next time.
Well, next time is going to be about Volume 9, so I'm looking forward to talk to you, hopefully between August, September, October. I mean, when I'm going to be promoting my new book.
Beautiful. I will make a note of it. Mr. Leo Zagami, God bless. Thank you for everything you do.
Recording
Guys, thank you for
stopped.
watching. Please go support Mr. Zagami. Peace.